Hey, folks, welcome to the Accessible Hunter podcast. I'm Greg Trainer along with my partner, Mike Hudson. And today we got a fabulous guest on that I've been really looking forward to for a long time. We have Jack Zimmerman, and he's going to really enlighten us with some great stories and inspirational things that he's been working on the last 14 years. We're just so happy to have you on, Jack. But first, Mike, what's going on in South Carolina, brother?
Dude, man, we're making it, man. We finally got a little bit of rain last night, break up some of this heat. But I'm like you, dude. I'm excited to be able to talk to Jack today and be able to see what all's going on in his world, man. That's what's unique about this opportunity to come on and podcast is being able to see people in the real, constantly taking something that a lot of folks will see as a negative, man, and just hitting the road and running. We always talk about people out and about. And today's podcast is going to be nothing different, man. I think everybody's going to be blown away.
Exactly. Jack, how you doing up in Minnesota, right?
Yeah. No, life's good up here. This is the best time of year to be in Minnesota. You don't want to be here in January, but pretty much every season's closed except for ice fishing, and I'm not too fond about sitting in a box with a bunch of other guys looking down a fishing hole. So ice fishing's not my thing really too much, but life's good. Looking forward to the fall. Got a busy fall lined up. A lot of good stuff going on.
I just watched one of your reels this morning about a wrap up for June, and it had you and the boys out, you and your sons, and it looked like you guys are having a great time. But for the folks that don't know your story and haven't really followed you before, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and what's been going on?
Yeah, so I grew up in small town Minnesota, really small town. Like I graduated with 24 kids, small class. And I knew kind of what I wanted to do after high school. I wanted to be an electrician. And so after school, I went to school, more school for another year and got a job while I was going to school working as an electrician. And I liked working a lot more than I did going to school. So I quit school and kept working, and I really enjoyed it. Being an electrician taught me a lot. Being around a bunch of guys that loved what they did, that loved to joke around, didn't treat you like a kid. It's a fun place to be, and learned a lot about life there. But one day I was sitting at the break table, and the guy across from me is complaining about his shoulder hurting, and the guy next to him is talking about retiring, and guy next to him is complaining about something else. And I was probably hungover, honestly. And I was like, I got to get out of here. I need a little more excitement in my life. And I always wanted to join the military, but I didn't really know anybody that was in. I didn't know who to ask questions to. But I knew I wanted to go fight. Like if I was going to join and I was going to go serve my country, like I want to be the guy fighting for his country. And
Right, right.
so I walked into the recruiter station one day after work and I said, I want to go to Iraq or Afghanistan. I want to get there as fast as I can. I want to be on the front lines. How do I do that? And he's like, don't move. And
Yeah.
got one. And
Yeah. Got a lot of fish. Let's go.
exactly. And I joined right then and there and signed a contract before I told anybody really what I did. And I didn't want anybody to talk me out of it. And by September of 2009, then I was on my way to Fort Benning, Georgia, where I did my basic training and infantry school down there. And
Yeah.
I did jump school down there, airborne school. And by the time that was all wrapped up, that was like the January of 2010. And made some of my best friends still to this day in basic training. Went to airborne school with most of them.
Right.
It's just the best time. We were a bunch of kids, had a little bit of freedom. We were getting to run around and jump out of planes. Like life was pretty fun. And next thing you know, we all split up from there and went to our duty stations. And some guys went to selection for special forces and that. I wasn't even old enough to go yet.
Yeah.
And I went to Fort Campbell then, Kentucky, and
Mhm.
Tennessee pretty much. And when I got there, they said, don't unpack your stuff. We're headed to Afghanistan. So I got exactly what I wanted. And I trained with them then for a few months. And by June 6th, D-Day of 2010, then I was on my way to Afghanistan. And we flew into the Kandahar Providence and right at Kandahar Airfield there. And kind of got what our mission was going to be about, our area of operations. No Americans had ever been in there before. Um, we knew it was the heart of the Taliban. It was their backyard. It was they knew that if they lost that ground, they lost it all, and they were
Yeah.
going to give it up without dying for it. And we eventually went in there and started building bases, and we shot our way down to the Arkansas River, and we built a base down there. And after 9 months of intense, hard fighting, and I lost my best friend through those 9 months. He stepped on a pressure plate IED. It was a secondary in a ditch. The
Yeah.
truck in front of me hit an IED, and the only reason we were out there that day was to get him home to meet his daughter. And
Yeah.
Wow.
It's heartbreaking. I say it all the time, but people think my worst day in Afghanistan was the day that I got wounded, but it wasn't, because what happened to me, I'm still here living a really good life, I'm
Yeah.
getting to do incredible things, Now there's a little girl that doesn't have a dad.
Yeah.
There's a wife that doesn't have a husband. There's a brother that lost his brother. There's a sister, whatever, a mother, all these people that were affected, I'm still here. And going through something like that at such a young age gave me such an extremely different outlook on life, and I know you guys have been in a chair for a long time, and you guys have either you figure it out or you don't. You know what I mean? And we can we move through life, and we decide to make our life what we want it to be. And he wasn't given that opportunity. We both basically experienced the same thing. It was March 9th, 2011. Then I just came off of my 2 weeks of leave of R&R, come out of a guard tower that morning, and I got back to the tent. And in the front of the tent, there was a whiteboard, and it always said what we were doing for the day. And I went up to the whiteboard, and I looked at the whiteboard, and I seen I was going on patrol that morning, but I had a little bit of downtime before we went and patrolled. We never really said when we were going to go patrol in that, because we had to take the Afghan army with us, and I don't think that they were always the most honest,
Yeah.
They would tip the Taliban off to when we were going to be heading out. So we just kind of let them know last minute we're headed out, and that morning, the mission briefing was we're going to go steal a cache from the Taliban. We had a pretty good idea where it was, but whenever you're going after a cache or something like that, they're not just going to let you walk up to it and take it,
Yeah.
So we knew we were going to be in for a little bit of a fight that day, most likely. And we rolled out of our base. I was on the front right. I was carrying a machine gun with about 1,200 rounds on me. My team leader was out in front, Sergeant Hurley. There's two riflemen off to his left, and then there was another team just like that behind us. And then in between us, there was probably, a bunch of support elements. We never went anywhere without our medic. We always got to take lieutenant or platoon sergeant out with us. Our first sergeant was out there with us that day, and his radio guy, and we have a radio guy that always goes out as well too, so there's a bunch of people that were stacked in between us there. So there's probably like 15 total of us on patrol. And we pushed out, and we got around. We were working around the top side of this village, and it's kind of shaped like a teardrop. And the big round part of the teardrop was where we were trying to get up to. And as we got closer to the top, we realized there's a big dirt berm on the north end of town, and we assumed it was to fight the Russians off of back in the day, And I ran up on top of that berm to make sure there wasn't a bunch of guys laying on the other side of that waiting to ambush us. And right when I got to the top of the berm, I seen two guys running into town. And anytime you see anybody running in Afghanistan, it usually meant they were up to no good. There's no reason to run over there. There's no running water. The tub isn't overflowing. There's a pie left in the oven. There's no electricity. So no really reason to be running. So when you see these guys running, we knew they were up to no good. And my team leader yelled at me to watch what buildings they went into. And as I seen where they were headed to, I looked down and I realized I was standing right on top of an IED. And I jumped off of that IED and I ran all the way to the end of that berm. Sergeant Hurley went up and he put a charge on top of that IED. And as soon as he blew it up, they started shooting at us, thinking we were shooting at them. And a whole gunfight broke out. And we gunfought for a while, and Kiowa helicopters came screaming in and throwing hellfires into all the buildings. And next thing you know, we decided we were going to head back to our base and grab more ammo and water and maybe take a different approach to this. And we did what's called the reverse order of movement. So now I was in the back of the formation, and we started heading back towards our base, and we started heading north, getting a little more standoff from this village along this ditch line. And we found a good place we thought was to cross this ditch. And me being the machine gunner, I was the last guy to cross. I was pulling rear security for everybody else as they jumped across the ditch one by one. And I was the last guy to jump across, and we started fanning out. And I was still on the right flank like I had been all day, but the village was on our left side of our formation. So my team leader wanted his machine gun on that side because there really wasn't a whole lot of stuff to our right. And I ran all the way across the formation. The two riflemen ran across the other side. And as we're walking across the wide open plowed field, I mean, huge field, you know, like you think about like Iowa, Minnesota, the giant plowed fields we have here, same kind of thing, you know. And they'd be growing opium and marijuana in these fields typically. And as we're walking across it, we got ICOM chatter. Our interpreter was telling us that he could hear the Taliban talking on their radios that they were getting ready to attack us again. And Sergeant Hurley passed that word back to us. And I said, "Hey, Sergeant Hurley, where do you think they're going to hit us from?" And he says, "I don't know, Jackie boy, I don't wham." And I stepped right on top of that IED out in the middle of that field. And I felt myself take off. Just kept flipping through the air. It was like a really bad dream that I couldn't wake up from. And I finally hit the ground and landed on my neck and my shoulder. And I felt my shoulder cave in when I hit the ground. And when I hit the ground, I was knocked so senseless, you know, in the sense of I had the wind knocked out of me twice, once on the way up, once on the way down. Couldn't see anything. There's so much dust in the air. Couldn't hear anything. My eardrums have been perforated. So, I mean, I was just completely senseless laying there. And I remember just kind of looking around for a minute, trying to see through my glasses and everything. And I was trying to get to my breath. And I finally remember kind of catching my breath a little bit. And about that time, I could see the tracer rounds going over my head. So I knew that we were shooting at somebody. So I knew this was complex ambush now, you know. I really didn't know what happened to me yet up to that point. And as I'm laying there, the first thing that I noticed was my left arm here was all blown out. You know, as you can kind of see there, it's all blown out back here. The whole bottom side of my arm was broken in half right here. And I see it bleeding out really bad, and I know I need a tourniquet. So I tried reaching on my left side where my first aid kit was, but I couldn't get my arm back there because when I landed, I broke my shoulder. My arm snapped in half. I can't get to my first aid kit, but I knew I had another tourniquet in my right pouch, my night vision pouch on my right side. So I'm digging over there trying to get that tourniquet out, and I can't get the pouch open. And I'm like, what in the heck is going on? Because I couldn't take my eyes off my arm. I was trying to figure out how bad it was with everything that was going on.
Absolutely.
As I picked my arm up on the right side to look over at it, there's just this little piece of skin right here, about an inch wide, middle of my arm here. And all down here was all blown out, you know, and snapped in half. And every time my heart would beat, I could see the blood spraying out my arm, you know. And I knew I was in pretty bad shape. I had no idea my legs were even hurt yet. And about that time, my buddy Daniels, he came sliding in on top of me. And when he jumped on top of me, he busted open my first aid kit and started tourniqueting my arms off for me. And the whole time he was doing that, I kept telling him, "Man, you got to get off my boys." You know, felt like he was kneeling right on my junk, you know. And what he was doing is he had his knees in my femoral arteries, trying to pinch those off while he was tourniqueting my arms. And about that time, Doc slid in and he cut my gear off of me and took my body armor off, my plate off me. And that's when I tried to sit up to get out of there. And that's when I seen that my right leg was completely tore off and my left leg from the knee down was pretty much gone, you know, just clean bone, you know, from the knee down to my boot. And I didn't really know how I was going to get out of there. We're still taking rounds out in the middle of this field. I knew we needed to move. But I didn't realize how tough a shape I was in until I seen that all the blood in the crater with me, you know. And I thought at first there had to be somebody else with me with how much blood there was, you know. But my arteries pumping out pretty fast, you know, in my right leg. And they continued to work on me, and a bunch of more guys kept working their way to me. And every time I tell this story, it's honestly a testament to those guys. You know, they knew there was another IED out there. The Taliban was talking on the radio that one of the other guys was going to run into an IED out there. Let him run into it, you know, and those guys just didn't give a shit. You know, they just came running right to me and risked their own lives to save mine. And so I tell everybody every day I try to live a life worth saving. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Those guys are willing to do that to go that distance for me. I better appreciate this life that I've still been given and blessed with. And had those guys hesitated, maybe I wouldn't be here today. Has those guys thought, what about my own personal safety? I wouldn't be here today, you know? And those guys dropped everything and came right to me and started working on me and getting me tourniqueted up and just remember how thirsty I was. I just needed a drink of water so bad. And I remember bugging Doc about it. And I think the first 15 minutes, I think I was asking her if my stuff was okay, because that's all I could think about.
Yeah.
Uh,
Priorities, man.
yeah, I mean, geez, I don't even know if at 21, that's about all that was on my mind, honestly.
Right.
And as they kept working on me, I just kept getting more and more tired. We went from talking about where we were moving in after we got back to Afghanistan to just like, I can't hardly talk anymore. You guys just got to let me do my thing. And I just started shaking my head like I would a cadence like you would march, left, right, and I just shake my head, with the cadence, just trying to make a conscious effort to stay alive. And just kind of came to the realization as I was laying there doing that I was probably at the end of my life, and I really probably wasn't getting off that battlefield, and what energy I had left in me, I knew that I had to use wisely, and what I was able to get out was tell everybody back home I love them. And
Yeah.
when you're with these guys in Afghanistan, you spend every living minute together. You can't get away from these guys whether you like it or not,
Yeah.
and you just kind of start running out of stuff to talk about, so you kind of know everything about everybody, and I knew that when I said to everybody back home I love them, that they knew who I meant, from all the stories that I had told and the people that I had talked about and the way that I talked about them. And the next thing you know, I start seeing my whole life start flashing before my eyes, stuff as little as 4 or 5 years old, some of my youngest memories, and all the way up until just days before getting wounded, before that moment, and what I realized in my life was flashing before my eyes was it was me and my buddies playing baseball,
Right.
it didn't matter we weren't playing in Yankee Stadium, it was me and my buddies out fishing in a 16-foot Lund boat, from 1965 or whatever, it didn't matter we weren't riding around in a brand new Ranger boat, uh
Yeah.
it was the people that were in the boat. And
Yeah.
I could go on with these analogies of all the things that I've seen flash before my eyes, but what I realized was that it had nothing to do with things, I mean, yeah, it had nothing to do with things. It had everything to do with the people that were with me, in that.
100%. Yeah.
And I really believe that when we leave this place, the only thing that we take with us is our memories,
Yeah.
and that's our most precious thing we hold. And what I realized was I didn't have any memories either of me just sitting on the couch watching Netflix either on a Friday night. I was out there living, having fun, enjoying the people that I was around. And about that time, I heard the rotors popping on that chopper, and I thought, man, I can't be the guy that dies right before that thing gets here, And
Yeah.
I always joke, I always say, how would I ever write a book if I died right here, And all of a sudden, I just remember reaching down with everything I had, anything I'd ever done before, anything I ever wanted to do again, any hope, every dream. And I tried to draw in one more breath. I remember Doc was trying to jab a needle in my neck, trying to get an IV going, but he couldn't hit the artery because every time he hit it, it would just collapse. There's just no blood left in me.
Yeah.
And they picked me up and slid me on that litter on my side and dropped me on that litter. And I remember my foot was sitting right on my chest as they hauled me across the field. And they slid me up in that chopper. And I remember Doc saying, I put 2 tourniquets on each limb, and the flight medic goes, I don't give a shit. We got to go. We were getting shot at out there. And next thing you know, I looked over and Sergeant Hurley's laying there on the floor next to me. And that was the worst feeling I had. I thought he was dead, honestly. And just by the way he was laying there. And I remember sitting up and looking at him and not really sitting up, I guess. I was just trying to look over at him. At this point, my vision was getting so blurry that it was hard to even see. So I was trying to look over there and see him and who it was for sure. And I could figure out it was Hurley. And this is about the time we're taking off full speed in this chopper.
Yeah.
About that time, he sits up, and I was like, oh my God, he's alive, And what had happened is a big hunk of steel come flying out of that IED, bounced off his shoulder and his head and busted him up pretty good, And he looks at me and says, man, you don't look very good, And
Yeah.
you're going to die, basically, is what he told me. And I was like, thanks for the confidence, Hurley. And I as I'm laying there, this flight medic jumps on top of me and he punches a fast one right in my middle of my sternum. I can still put my finger on it today. It still hurts like hell. And he started feeding me fluids through my bones then. And by the
Yeah.
time I landed at the airfield, I could see again, I could breathe, I could talk. I felt really pretty good after getting a couple bags of that fluid, And we landed at the airfield, and remember the helicopter shutting all the way down, and remember hearing the blades get slower and slower and slower, and it kind of gave me a minute to kind of collect myself and my thoughts and just kind of take a breath. Hell, I made it off the battlefield, and next thing you know, that door ripped open on that chopper, and that's when the real chaos that day started. And they pulled me out of that chopper and put me in the back of this truck. And I'll never forget, my anesthesiologist was on my left, surgeon was on my right, and the anesthesiologist first asked me if I was allergic to anything, and I was like, yes, penicillin. And he's like, yeah, I'm not really worried about that right now. And I was like, well, I do. I'll get hives. I have no hands to itch with. That's all I could think about.
Yeah.
And next thing you know, surgeon told me if I could stay awake for 5 more minutes, he would promise me my life. And I said, deal. And remember hearing that truck start, the beeper on that truck to started backing up, to the doors of that hospital. And the doors of that truck ripped open. And I remember them sliding my litter out onto this 2-wheel cart. And we started flying down the hallway. And it was like light, hard right. And that's kind of the first time I realized how little was actually left of me. It really kind of set in as the way they picked me up off that litter. I was 6'3", 240 pounds on the battlefield, just a monster of a man, and all of a sudden these 2 lady nurses are just basically picking me up, and setting me on this table, and I was like, dang, I'm hurting pretty bad right now. And as I'm laying there now, I seen these guys in the ambulance truck, whatever the heck the thing was, and I knew what their faces looked like. And now all of a sudden you get in this room and now everybody looks the exact same. Everybody's wearing the same color gown. Everybody's wearing the same color mask. Everybody's wearing the same everything, So I have no idea who's who anymore. And this guy comes over the top of me and he's trying to put this mask on me. And I keep shaking my head, trying to stop him. And he's like, what are you doing? And I was like, well, I had a bet with the guy that's going to stay awake for 5 minutes. And I think you're trying to put me out,
Right.
And finally he yells for Doc, and Doc comes over. And this whole time there's gals trying to put like these stickies on my chest to get my heart rate and all this stuff. And
Right.
finally Doc comes over and he's like, hey, is this guy's 5 minutes up? And he's like, yeah, man, you can go to sleep. And the guy told me to count back from 10, and I basically told him to F off. My last memory on earth wasn't going to be 1. And
Right.
I started thinking about all the best times of my life. I just seen flash before my eyes as I drifted off to sleep. And 6 days later, I woke up in San Antonio from an induced coma. And first words out of my mouth are, what I got to do to get the hell out of here. I didn't want to be in that hospital. And
Right.
I stayed 2 weeks in ICU, 6 weeks in a regular hospital room. And I was out of there in 2 months. I always joke, I just needed stitches. Everything else was gone,
Yeah.
And, yeah, I mean, the care that I got down there was absolutely phenomenal. Those guys and gals down there were top notch. Once I woke up, I never once thought I was going to die. Even with the injuries that I had, when I woke up, my wounds were still all wide open. I was still packed with mud and dirt, and I still need to be washed out. And, it was really touch and go there for a long time until I got to San Antonio. And every time they tried washing me out, my vitals would plummet and I would about die. And they'd just get me stabilized again and move me, And I went from Bagram to launch stool, Walter Reed, and never got off the plane at Walter Reed. But then I went straight to San Antonio. And, there's a lot of guys that went to Walter Reed. And I always say fortunate to go to San Antonio. Guy like me belongs in Texas long before he belongs in DC, and so fortunate I got to go to Texas. When I woke up there and got back out in the community, I never felt so welcome in my life. I love Texas. Holds such a special place in my heart. And all the people down there in Texas are absolutely just the most gracious people I've ever met in my entire life. And so thankful that I woke up there. And that's where I just started to get right out of the hospital. One of the first things I did was get back out there and get back out in the blind. And where I realized that was the best therapy for me. That's what I needed. there's a lot of different kinds of therapy that can happen out there. For me, mine was just figuring out this new body of mine. Waking up, nothing in my life was the same. My hopes, my dreams, my way I moved. I didn't even know what my capabilities even were going to be. I had no legs. I had at the time, I really didn't even have an arm.
Yeah.
And for a long time, somebody had to brush my teeth, feed me, give me a drink, everything I needed at one point in time. And I had to work my way up to just doing those simple tasks. And the things I learned by going through that, the patience and, you know, being able to touch my nose for the first time was the ultimate freedom of being able to start gaining some independence. Because once I could do that, I could, like I said, drink again, brush my own teeth. It took me a long time to even get to that point. But once I did it, I knew I could do it again. And you could just do it over and over again. That's kind of what I realized was once you got out and once you got into that car for the first time to head out to the woods, you're like, all right, now I know how to get in a vehicle, and they put you in an apartment in San Antonio and therapy, and they want you to get on the bed and they want you to do this and they want you to do that for the first time, without help. And you're like, man, I don't know. That just doesn't sound like much fun. This is miserable. But they show me a stand on a tripod, and they're like, well, if you can climb up these stairs, we can hunt out of that blind. I'm like, all right, watch me, and
Yeah.
my whole life I've always just wanted to know why. Why do I gotta do this? If you can give me a good reason, I'll knock it out. But you know,
It's all about the challenge, huh, Jack? They got to just put you to
I don't have a
task.
good enough reason,
Man, look, dude, I thank you so much for sharing your story. Thank you for your service, the sacrifice, man. And, just hearing your story. I know you're an author, and a lot of people that are listening probably don't know that right off. Seeing some of the stuff from your first 5 minutes,
Yeah.
the book you've written and being able to tell your story. Thank you again for all your service and sacrifice. Um, I was in the Marine Corps, was not hurt in combat at all. And I've got a lot of buddies, IEDs, daisy chain. A lot of people don't understand the complexities that these guys learn from fighting with Russia and other places. These guys are warriors, man. They understand combat. They understand the totalitarian opportunity to bring more guys in, and they know the Americans are going to come without hesitation. Your boys were right there to save you. That's what they're doing. That's the epitome of brotherhood. And we hear it over and over again when we're talking to the guys at Walter Reed and other places. You don't think about it. That is your boy, that you're going without hesitation. Um, and people say, "What are you fighting for?" And you're fighting for the guy that's right beside you. And it's not always about the flag. It's not always about this and that. It is. That's what gets you into the military: the patriotism, the love of people, love of country. But man, I can't thank you enough for all you're doing. You're the epitome of what makes America great. Um, and dude, just hearing more and more about your story and how you took something that could have been a negative and you found a way to dig in, get that intestinal fortitude about it, grit it out, and just finding new ways to continue to give back. Man, I can't thank you enough. And that's inspiration. I know you're like me and Greg. We don't like the term inspiration. We're just living life, dude. And people are always like, man, you're inspiring. And I'm like, for what? Trying to be a man? I roll in a wheelchair. That's the only thing different. I'm still a dude. And you said a mouthful, and the hardest thing for me was just trying to figure out this new body.
Yeah.
So what all did you go through in those complex moments, those microseconds of, okay, I can make it 5 minutes. Made the 5 minutes. Now what?
Yeah, really what the thing that turned the tide for me when I was laying in the hospital with all the questions that I had was other guys that came up to my hospital room, other guys that have been wounded before me
Right.
that would come up their bedside. And as I'm laying there, still going through surgeries, haunted by what the rest of my life might look like, I'm thinking I'll never be able to do anything ever again, really, how would I ever pull back a bow again? How would I ever do
Yeah.
all the things that I love to do? And next thing you know, there's a guy in my room named Will Isles. And he's like, nah, you'll drive again. You'll be doing everything again. It ain't no big deal, man. It's really 100% doable. Anything that you want to do out of here, you just might do it a little different now. And I'm like, all right, that sounds all right. I think I can do this, And I mean, I was going to do it either way, but this sounds a lot better. I was going to make a life for myself one way or the other, but knowing that there was things already set up out there for me that I never considered was the thing that I was like, all right, I can do this. This is going to be this is worth fighting for. And it just gave you that extra drive every day to get up, to get back out in the woods, to maybe hear somebody hit that duck call one more time, and hearing that flutter over your head, and I just wanted that one more time. At that age, I'd never heard an elk bugle in the mountains before. It was just dreamed of that, and it's like, all right, I gotta get out of this hospital bed because I'm not gonna hear any elk bugle here. I'm not gonna hear any ducks hitting the water here, and
Yeah.
it was like, all right, what I gotta do? What's next, And a lot went into it, but what really pushed me was I had so many people supporting me. I would get these carts
Yeah.
full of mail every single day, and people are just words of any kind of encouragement or prayer or whatever it may be. It was one of those things that how can I fail with all these people pushing behind me? I feel like I'd be letting all these people down, and I really just made everything that I was going through about somebody else. What? All these people are sending me cards. I couldn't fail for them. These people I dropped everything in life to come to my side to aid me. These people that basically is gratitude, really, just thankful for all that, and
And Jack,
too
you
much
had just
you've
you
done.
had just gotten engaged 2 weeks
Yeah.
before this
Yeah.
happened to you, right? And
Yeah.
and your fiance Megan and your family had to be a big support system that you relied on. You want to talk a little bit about family and how much that meant at that time to you as
Oh
well?
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it was without them, that was all I knew. That was the only thing that I knew from basically before I got blown up, I mean, that was the only thing that was the same in my life, And without them there and supporting me through all that, I wouldn't have made the recovery that I did, And I'm always grateful and thankful that they were able to do that, and that they're willing to do it and gave me an opportunity to live the life that I am now.
Yes,
Dude,
sir.
it gets down to the point, Jack, where that's what life's about. It's about those support systems. Nothing in us is about an I, it's a team. We can't do anything without that team. You had an amazing support system from the staff that got to you. Your guys getting to you right on the key. Getting those tourniquets applied right away, getting all that. Casevac, everybody in the movements getting you out of there. You train for it, you train for it, but in the midst of it, when you got young guys that are willing to pump into that. And people don't understand professionalism until you got a guy working on a dude that he has a personal, knowing relationship with. And it's mind blowing that these guys jump in without hesitation, and the training kicks in, but it's different when you're working on a guy or girl, um,
Yeah,
and then be
absolutely.
able to get in there. And a lot of people don't understand, some of the stuff we go through, the dark humor. It's part of it. We can joke around, oh, I got blown up, or this or that happened. I got one of my buddies, Kevin Brewington, and same thing, man, IED. And we joke around, and I had to throw him under the bus one day, and you might get this more than other people, but he was going on, and they were talking about the pullout in Afghanistan, and he was upset. He's like, man, I left two good legs over there. And
Yeah.
I said, dude, they should have NJP'd you. You left military equipment. And it was just funny because it caught him off guard. And he's like, "F you, man." And then it kicks in. He goes, "You're right. You're right."
Yeah.
But
No.
man, the stuff you go through, you can explain it to somebody, they'll never understand it truly.
Yeah.
But man, thank God you're still here, dude. You got amazing testimony, and I'm
Yeah.
I'm so glad that you're out there sharing it, dude. Thank you.
Yeah. I mean, everything is about perspective,
100%.
I was so lucky to, like I said, to wake up and to have the opportunities that I do every single day without knowing though what my true purpose in life was, what my true love was, the thing that drives me every single day, that was the outdoors, it was getting back out there. And I think that's the key for everybody in life, to find your own happiness, to find your thing that makes you who you are, the thing that drives you to whatever it may be that makes you the best version of yourself, right? Like that is the whole point of my second book, Beyond 5 Minutes, is to go out there and find that thing makes you tick, right? Like the outdoors, hunting, it was everything that I needed in one place, right? Maybe that's a set of golf clubs in a golf course for some people in a sunrise, you know? Being outside, connecting with the world outside and putting yourself out there and pushing yourself, you know, it doesn't make us any different because we're in a wheelchair, right? We are, for me, I'm half the man I used to be, you know, with that dark humor, you know, and
Yeah.
but really at the end of the day, people say that maybe we're so inspirational or this or that because we don't look like everybody else. So you tend to go you see something that doesn't look right. We're out of place, right? We don't look like every other human. So you look over at us and you see us out there living our lives and you think to yourself, I can't imagine being that person, right? I did that myself when I had my own two legs and we're running around.
Sure.
I would That's why people stare at us, you know. It's like they're looking at for themselves, and I believe this is my own belief, you know. This isn't saying this is the fact or anything, but I think it's people looking at it going, I don't know how I don't think I could do that, you know. How does that person do that? And they see us out there with a smile on our face. They see us holding up a pair of horns next to the mountains. They see us doing these things, and it's like, man, that's incredible. And it's like, no, we just found something that we love so much that nothing was going to get in our way. You know, nothing was going to stop us. Nothing was going to change who we are, our core and our core beliefs. I was a hunter before I got blown up. And just because I got blown up, it's going to change who I am today. No, I mean, we define our own lives. We define who we are. And I define myself as an author, a motivational speaker, and an outdoorsman, you know. And that's what I'll always be. No matter what happens to me the rest of my life, I'll always be an outdoorsman in some way, shape, or another. And we talked so many times about the next generation of hunters, you know, and I think we need to start saying more. What about the last generation of hunters? The
Yeah.
people that introduced us to the outdoors, right? I'm sure when you guys go in the outdoors, somebody has to help you from time to time, you know, and doing certain things or hunting a different place, or you always need a little bit of help, whether you're in our situation or not, you know. But what happens to that uncle that's now 70 years old that took you all home for that first damn time? Are you just going to let him sit at home all through the whole season? That he gave up how many seasons to take you out to the swamp every weekend? Like he wanted to drag you around when you were 12? No, but he knew that you needed to be out there because it was the best thing for you, you know? Get him back out in the woods. You know, just people always want to help us, but what about grandpa? What about your uncle? What about your dad? Whoever it may be, give up that weekend and get them back out in the outdoors. They need that more than they'll ever say they do. They won't admit it. They won't ever ask for it. But go get them back out. Even if you're going to go out deer hunting, bring your uncle out, put him in the front seat of the truck, put him at the field approach and let him watch from the field or whatever. Just get him back out there some way, shape, or other. I'm not saying stop taking kids out hunting by no means. I think that should definitely be a priority. But let's not forget about the people that took us out the first time either, you know?
Jack, that's just spot on, brother. You know, you've turned trauma into purpose. And I'm not going to say this, for any other reason than it's true. Beyond 5 minutes, I just finished that book, and you articulate what hunting means to me, how I feel as a person with a disability, how important it is for me to get out. I've had these thoughts for 26 years, Jack, and you've articulated it perfectly. If somebody's looking for a book to give to a person with a disability or to give to somebody that loves the outdoors, man, buy this book Beyond 5 minutes. It'll change your perspective. It was so great to read, Jack. I thank you for writing that.
Yeah, absolutely. It was after I wrote my first book, I really felt like I had so much more I wanted to say and I had so much more that I wanted to share and whether anybody read it or not, I hope that my kids would enjoy it someday, you know, in my perspective. You know, I realize how fast life can be over and there's sometimes things that we meant to say but we never got out, you know. And that's why I find it so urgent to put things in my feelings down and note and journal and do all these things as much as I can and don't hide it. Leave it out there for your kids to find someday, you know, and hopefully it'll inspire them someday, you know. But yeah, that my first book was kind of a COVID fluke deal where I was sitting there going, man, I can't do any motivational speaking right now. What am I gonna do, you know? And if you ask my English teacher my sophomore year, that gave me an F if I was ever going to write a book. She probably would have told you no, but here I am, and I enjoyed doing that so much. And that's when I wrote Beyond 5 Minutes. And the best place to get it, honestly, is my website, jackzimmermanusa.com or jackzimmermanmn.com for Minnesota. Either one works. And or you can get it off Amazon too. You can get it there. Either way, if you want to get it signed, I'd love to sign it for you. Go get it from my website. And yeah, that's the best place to get it. And if you're not a reader, fingers crossed, hopefully really soon we're going to have both books available for audio version. So they're just getting edited now. So
I just ordered your first one on Kindle this morning.
yeah.
So that's my next read. Just an amazing job, Jack. I really enjoyed reading the first one.
Yeah, and I was super lucky. My good friend Cody Johnson, the country music singer, he was kind enough to write the foreword for me. And it's humbling to see, the entertainer of the year guys entertain more people than anybody else, to get that award. Him to go out there and to put his stamp on this book and to put his name on it and show his support for me really meant the world. And he's been nothing but inspirational for myself. He was a guy that was down and out and didn't know what he wanted to do in his life and was trying to rodeo and kind of didn't see a way out of that. And started playing country music, and people told him that they didn't like his style and this and that in Nashville. And he said, well, you guys can all go kick rocks. I'm going to do it my way. And he was a pioneer himself, and I knew Cody before really a lot of people knew him, personally. And to have him say the things he did about me was incredibly humbling. And his friendship means the world to me, honestly.
Jack, you've given us bits of inspiration and true heart just in this short conversation.
Yeah.
I don't do this to blow smoke. Man, I can't thank you enough for coming on and sharing time, sharing your story. You're right. Everything about hunting, the man you are, that's part of our ethos, right? That is internal. You can't fake it, you can't make it up. And so guys like Cody, they see it, they understand who you are. They're just telling the truth. And you're just able to do it in a format. I'm right there with you, dude. If somebody were to look at my Scholastic journal, I look at my old report cards and they're like, F, dude ain't gonna make it anywhere. But dude, you're taking everything that somebody would see as a negative in life, right? Having issues at young age, having this and that. And dude, you've turned it into an inspirational opportunity. And right, we need to get more guys inspired to tell their story. Their story's unique, every one of them. And we just want to hear more of it. And so I'm looking forward to continue reading. Looking forward to getting to know more. If you had to sense your injury from a disability standpoint, or I don't really like that term either. We're just differently abled. What would be an ideal hunt that you've got to do, man? Something that is just mind blowing. That here you are, second chance at life, and this is the hunt that you dreamed of.
I mean, growing up, I think everybody dreams of putting an elk on the ground,
Yes.
That was one of my first hunts that I got to do. You watch these elk. I first morning remember waking up and out on the porch of this hunting lodge. We got in pretty late, so the elk weren't really bugling when we got there. But that morning, as the sun came up, I remember being on the porch and just hearing that first elk scream, and I was like, "Yep, this is where I'm supposed to be right now." And going out there and harvesting that animal, an animal that I never thought I'd never dreamed that I'd ever really have an opportunity to go shoot a good bull like I did. But to do it in the situation that I was in, so freshly wounded, within less than a year of being wounded, I was able to harvest that animal and to run my fingers along its horns and to just run my hand down its hide, and just put my hand on that rear quarter and just feeling how big they are, I was in complete awe, and if anybody ever gets a chance to go chasing elk, you got to do it. It's a once in a lifetime opportunity. I think that if maybe hunting wasn't my thing, just recently I went and fished the Rainy River. It's right on the Canada-Minnesota border, and it's a lot of people have heard of Lake of the Woods,
Yeah.
and it's a giant lake up there. but the place you really want to go is Rainy. It's these little islands on this river. It's the best walleye fishing. You can go out and catch crappies, giant walleyes. But every time you go around a corner, it's like a dang postcard. It's so beautiful up there. It's one of the most, it's right outside Voyager National Park. Um, it's so quiet up there. I mean, you're right. I mean, there's not a lot of people up there and there's a lot of space, and the best camping in the world. And it's an absolute treasure. It's an absolute treasure. But um I wish I would have hunted international sooner. I wish I would have hunted internationally sooner. Um Going to Africa is really doable for just about anybody, just you got to find the right outfitter, somebody that knows your situation, that knows what's going on. And I think a good place to go and find that outfitter that you want to go with to go hunt internationally is to go to a show like Safari Club International or one of those events and go meet with these people that are so passionate, that are looking to take you out, that are willing to go that extra mile because they're out there. They want to help you. If you want to give them the opportunity, you can go have the best time of your life.
Jack, I know that you've hunted red stag in New Zealand, and
Yeah.
you've been on some incredible hunts and really have made the most of the opportunities presented, to you. I was wondering what you would say to somebody that's going through their own 5 minutes right now that is struggling. What would you say to them to kind of motivate them if they're listening today?
Go shoot some mallards in the face. It fixes everything. No, I'm just kidding.
Dude, I love that answer. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
it is, man. Yeah, it is.
No, I really mean that though. I mean, go shoot some mallards in the face. It fixes everything. Go. Like I said, deep down inside, we all know what makes us happy, right? Do that. Simply do that. Find a way to do that every single day, right? You guys love having good conversations. You love helping people tell their stories. You love helping people share their stories. You love learning from other people. You guys do that every day, right? In some way, shape, or another. Whether you're lining up another guest to come on this podcast, or you're uploading a video of something inspiring, or whatever it is, you found something that you truly love, that you can focus on, that you enjoy, and you're bringing purpose with it to other people, right? Don't make it about yourself. Make it about somebody else with something that you love to do. It's simple as that. And if you make it about somebody else, you're going to find so much more joy in it. I don't know anybody out there that goes and tells the most selfish story in the world and you go, dang, that sounds like a really awesome story. I wish I could be selfish.
Yeah.
The only time you ever feel anything is when you see somebody out there giving and going above and beyond. And all of a sudden you're like, dang it, I got to do more, and be around those people. Surround yourself with the best people in the world. Surround yourself with people you want to be in the woods with, and know what you need right now. Learn that about yourself. Sometimes I say I need to be out in the duck blind with 4 of my buddies, talking smack, shooting at ducks, and talking about my frustrations in life. And then there's times where I need to go sit out in the bear blind by myself, be as quiet as I can, and be alone with my thoughts, and jot a few notes down when I need to, and work through those things that I need to work through alone with no distraction except for me and the earth that I'm sitting on.
Right. It's about building those relationships, man. Like you said, life's short, dude. I've got more years behind me than I got ahead of me. And that's just a fact. Aging gets there, and all we can do is try to find focus and purpose. You were just able to find it young, continue to push forward each and every day. And it's a daily struggle for me. If I'm staying on my own, I got to figure out something. And if I focus on someone else, my troubles are nothing compared to what everybody else is going through. Find those things, man. But you said something just a few minutes ago that was very poignant. That we can't do it on our own. There's a lot of organizations out there that are willing to push forward. Can you tell us just briefly a couple of those organizations that have really poured into you, man? A lot of these guys and girls. What me and Greg get to do is just amazing. We get to see and highlight people that are living life, dude. And everybody we bring on seems to find that purpose, and it's always a shining light. It always is humbling to me that we get guys and girls on that are either injured in the most traumatic ways, and these guys are the ones that have such a spark, dude. That I saw a guy not too long ago, and he said prior to his injury. They called him the Hulk, this
Yeah.
huge towering guy, right? And he always thought of himself prior to his injury. Same thing, man. IED blew apart, and he said it took me to be a half a man to find out a half a man's truly a whole man.
Yeah.
And prior to my injury, I didn't know what a whole man was.
Yeah.
But yeah, tell us a little bit about some of the organizations that have poured in and helped you.
Yeah, I mean, when I first was wounded, Military Warrior Support Foundation was a huge one down in Texas. They have their outdoor skills for life, and they went as far as having the Purple Heart Ranch. You can
Yeah.
probably guess what you need to get on there, and it was organizations like that in the beginning that were really, they're the ones that took me on that first elk hunt, and down in Texas, on that deer hunt. And it really, really showed me all the versatility, all the things that I could do. It was the first time I got on a plane after being wounded, on a commercial plane, was with those guys. And it's like, no, we'll show you. We do this guys every week, it's no big deal. We'll show you what to do. And that's the things that you need, is those people that are, like I said, going in front of you, that have done it before, that are like, nah, it's no big deal. Just go do it, And now there's like really not anything in this world I don't really feel like I can do or go, or because of organizations like that, when I went and shot that stag in New Zealand, I was with the Foundation for Exceptional Warriors, just a great outfit, and so lucky for their support, and if it wasn't for people like that and Patriot Catfishing, those guys down there, they've got me on the water so many times, and I do so much healing on the water, and there's nothing more healing than trying to get a catfish in the boat, because you really can't think about anything else, or you're going in the pond with it. They're so big. Ranching for Heroes down in Texas probably is right now where I do most of my stuff with, and honestly, I don't really do a whole lot anymore with a lot of traditional organizations, because I'm so fortunate. I've met so many friends over the years in hunting that
There you
I
go.
try not to take those opportunities with these organizations, because they're there for guys that maybe don't have the same opportunities that I do.
Yeah.
And if I
Right.
were to go on that hunt, then how would they go? And like Jeff and Andy down at Stanfield Outfitters down in Texas, I'm always welcome to come down there with those guys. They said, and shoot speckle bellies anytime I want, just invitations like that, like up to the Deuce Lodge up in North Dakota with the Carlsons up there. Anytime I want, I can go to North Dakota and use my 10 days up there to go up there and shoot at some ducks and use all their stuff and go out with them. And they treat you like family, and because of people like that, I'm lucky that I don't have to rely on just a nonprofit to get me out, and I think that guys will find out once they get out there and they spend a little time at the bait shop, or you spend a little bit of time at the sporting goods place, or wherever it is, you're going to meet a lot of other outdoorsmen that go, come on, get the boat, come on, you can come and shoot a doe off my place, or whatever it may be. You just got to be out there. You got to put yourself out there. You got to give yourself the opportunities and focus on what you love. Like, that is legitimately the key to life, is just focusing on what you love and figuring out how to do that as much as you can.
Well, Jack, thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to speak with Mike and I. And,
Yeah.
the things you've shared, man, people need to take this stuff to heart. You've really given me a lot to think about today, and I appreciate everything you're doing. Mike, I'll give you the last word on today, and we'll have to close it out. But Jack, we want to have you back if you're willing, because I know you have so many stories and so much to tell us. I'd love to have you back on the podcast again.
Yeah, let's line it up. And I tell a bunch of my stories too on a podcast that I host called Strength from Service too, if anybody wants to check out some of my stories there. And like I said, my book, jackzimmermanmn.com or Jack Zimmerman USA, go check it out there, my website. And schools, dinners, anything like that you want to have me come speak at, I would love to come speak at your events. And you can reach me there from my website there to get in touch. And you guys truly are inspiring, because you guys could have done the same thing. You could go lay in bed and wait to die, but you guys probably aren't as patient either, like I am. So we're not willing to wait that long laying there. So we're going to get up and do some stuff between now and then. And Mike, thank you for your service and everything you've done for this country. If it wasn't for guys like you, I would have had nothing to fight for. So
Jack, man, I can't thank you enough for taking time out, dude, and just for your humbling, your deep felt personality, man. This is mind blowing to me. Just to be able to share time with guys like you. This country, freedom's not free, man, and you've paid that price for us. And man, I can't thank you enough. It is truly heartfelt. I'd love to team up with you on some other stuff. We're going to tag all these organizations that you mentioned. Absolutely. If anybody's listening, get in touch with Jack, man. He's inspirational. Have him out at your place, man, to be able to share. Thank you for the humility in which you share. And you're right. It's about building relationships, spending time with the people that matter. That's the one thing we can't get back is time once it's gone.
Yeah.
Share that time with the passion and people that you love, but pay it forward, man. Show these organizations that are out there doing our life's not really about us, man. It's about the people coming up beside us and behind us. Let's prop people up and put them in a position better than we were. Thank you again, Jack, for your time, dude. And man, I look forward to being able to hear more and share more.
Yeah, we got all kinds of hunting to talk about.
Hey, all we got to do is go, man.
Look forward to it, guys.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you.